You went from losing your husband to taking on another kiddo within a month's time. That is a complete shift in everything.
If there's something that I need to do, whether it's for my kids or a family member or a close friend, that's what I do. We're all real big at supporting those that we love, knowing that he was going to go directly into foster care and knowing that he is nonverbal and couldn't take care of himself or stick up for himself. No matter what I'm going through, I could not let him do that. I would not be able to live with myself.
That child that I shared a bedroom with came out of living in a shed in somebody's backyard.
Right.
Right? And nobody knew that for however long.
God has a plan for you, no matter what it is. And I would feel him telling me, like, everything's going to be okay. Kids with autism are very intelligent. They're very smart. They're all different. They're all unique individuals. You just have to learn with them because they deserve to be treated like a person.
You're not just having a child with autism. You're having a child with autism and trauma on top of that.
Welcome to the Open Homes Initiative podcast, where we enjoy conversations to connect the foster, kinship, and adoptive care that goes on in the Concho Valley to real-life people and everyday situations. Our goal is to put names and faces to numbers and statistics because we believe that every story matters, that your story matters to God, and as such, matters to us. And so I have the joy this morning of sitting here with Shannon Aguirre, where we get to tell her story a little bit. But before we do that, I want to kind of give a brief introduction into something that's a little different about this podcast in particular. So far, we have talked about mine and my wife's, Chelsea and I's, foster journey. We have introduced or interviewed foster parents, adoptive parents. We've even talked to bio kids, but what we have not done yet is a kinship story. And that is what is going on here. So let's talk just briefly about what is kinship. Do you want to introduce what is the difference in kinship? What is the difference in fostering versus kinship?
Well, I mean, essentially, it is still foster care. The children are still in the state's care, but kinship is specifically placement with people that are typically related or even fictive relatives in the sense that they already know the family and they know the child in particular. They could be blood relatives or they could just be, like, truly just a friendship or a relationship with the biological family of some sort.
So one of the big differences is they're almost thrown into the story as opposed to preparing beforehand to enter into the story. So fosters, most times, we're praying, we're looking into it, we're debating. It's a 3 to 5 year process, and we're signing up for it, and we're going through classes. Yeah. It often comes with a phone call, and it's like, okay, here we go. And roughly half of all of the kids that are pulled into the foster system in Tom Green County actually go into kinship care. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little bit less, but about half of the stories involved in this arena are in kinship care. And so we get to highlight one of those today. So Shannon, would you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, about your family, your history, whatever comes to mind.
So my name is Shannon Aguirre, and I have 2 children of my own. One is 21, my daughter, and then I have a son who is 17. And we recently lost my husband in June of 2025, which is actually the uncle of the child that I have right now in kinship. Okay. So we've lived here in San Angelo since 2007, sorry. So we're from far west Texas, from Alpine, if a lot of people know where Alpine is.
I have family in Alpine.
So,
there you go. Know exactly where it's at.
My daughter was born in Alpine. My son was born here. So I have family there, and my sisters do live here as well. So I do have a lot of support here. Really, that's about, we don't do much. We are close family, and we do just, everything we really do is we're doing for the child that we have right now.
Wow.
So
awesome. Are your 2 bio kids still in the home, or
they are? They are in the home, and they're very helpful. My daughter loves the child that we have right now. She is the backup if anything was to happen to me. So, this was not just a decision of me when I got the phone call. At first, I do have a lot of medical issues, and so at first it was kind of like I didn't take him at first. He was living with his maternal grandmother, and then some issues happened, and I've always been involved with all the meetings and everything. So as I was sitting in meetings, my heartstrings kept pulling, and I was praying. I've always been praying for him, and it just kept pulling at my heart, and I just kept hearing that I should take him. And so I kept talking to my children about it, and we decided that enough was enough and that we were going to take him in.
That's awesome.
So that's what we decided to do, and we've had him since July of last year.
Wow.
Wow. So there was a lot of changes that went on in your life last summer.
Yes.
Wow.
Because, I mean, you have your life, and, you're doing your own things, and then you bring in this child into your home.
Yes.
And the dynamics change.
Yeah.
Not long
completely.
after your husband passed away.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you just, at first it was a struggle for us all a little bit just to get used to the change. But we've all grown together. He did have some behaviors, and they have gotten better.
Yeah.
Because he does have a diagnosis of autism and then moderate IDD, which is intellectual development disabilities. If people don't know what that is.
Yeah, working through the acronyms helps. a lot of us understand the acronyms, but plenty of people don't.
That don't. So we just love on him and let him know that everything's going to be okay, and do what
Does he have any siblings, or is he?
He does have an older brother who's in his 20s who also has a diagnosis of autism, but it's not as severe as his is.
So what were some of those first days like? You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I can't even imagine. You went from losing your husband to taking on another kiddo within a month's time. That is a complete shift in everything. But what was that process like? How did you even navigate that? Or what were some of those emotions? Or was it just, this is what needs to happen, this is what I have to, so I'm just going to put my head down and do it, and then I'm going to come up for air later?
That's pretty much how I am. If there's something that I need to do, whether it's for my kids or a family member or a close friend, that's what I do. We're all real big at helping others, whether it's me, my sisters, my children, or supporting those that we love. So we just did what we could. Like I said, it was a struggle because he did have a lot of behaviors at first. There was some screaming and crying, and he would get frustrated because he can't really tell you what he wants or what he needs. His language has gotten better, like his verbalness has gotten better. He is talking more. We do have 4 dogs at home, and he loves the dogs. I think that has played a huge part with him because he loves on them, they love on him. He calls their names now. He helps feed them.
It's therapeutic. And
it is
gives
very
him
therapeutic.
responsibility,
Yes.
and it gets like a place to channel all of that energy and things that he can't otherwise function and do.
And Kimberly has taken the role. She's the bigger dog. She thinks she's about 12 pounds, and she's more like 80. And she will go and sleep with him. And he'll tell her, come on, Kimberly, come on, to get on the bed. And he loves that when she sleeps with him. And my daughter will come home and be like, where's Kimberly at? And I'm like, where do you think she's at? And she's just like, so she knows she's kind of her dog.
It's supposed to be her dog.
Yeah, it's supposed to be her dog. So
not any longer.
Yeah. So and it doesn't bother her because she knows,
Yeah.
So. But it was, like I said, his behaviors have gotten better. We haven't really heard the screaming and the yelling. We try to explain when things are going on. We try to explain to him where he can understand what's happening, or we have some pictures of communication. And that's one thing right now we're in the process of, is getting him a communication device so that he can hopefully tell us what's going on. A little bit more. When he gets frustrated or if he's not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because with autism, a lot of the number of emotions come out in the exact same behavior. And so it's hard to go, okay, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling distressed, whatever. And so those type of things can come into play there to help him. Are you feeling this? Okay, does that mean this? Does that mean this? Help us navigate. We've got the placement that we have right now. We're learning a lot more techniques. He's only 3, but he's nonverbal. Well, nonverbal is probably not the right word. He is learning.
Highly delayed.
He's delayed verbally, but he has learned in the 4 months that he's been with us. I think we're up to like 20.
Yeah, I keep an
20-ish
ongoing
words.
list of words on the fridge of like,
awesome.
what is he saying and which ones are he signing, and some he's signing and saying, and so
It is interesting.
it's good to see the progress that they make.
It is.
As they get stability in their life.
Exactly.
Again, it's not a fix-all, but it is definitely something that you see, okay, once they feel stable and safer and, all
Secure.
of their more secure and their needs are being met on a regular basis, then all of those things then they can start working on all of those things that they're delayed on. Before that, it's like, I'm just in survival mode. I'm just trying to live from day to day. And so what you've given them is that space to say, hey, now you can actually start healing and functioning as you're supposed to and meet those needs that he has. So that's awesome.
And I'm glad that you bring that up, because we had him before, but it was only a safety plan.
Yes.
So we had him about 4 months then.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was doing really well then. He was not fully potty trained, so that's another issue that we've been working on. Just in those 4 months that we had him back then, we had him almost fully potty trained. Yeah. And then he got, taken back at home. And so between then and then when we got him again in July last year, he had fully regressed in a lot of things, in a lot of areas. But there was a lot of things that played a part in that, just in the 6 months of last year, because like I said, he was with his maternal grandmother. He was pulled from her house because of physical abuse. And it had to do with the toileting. So that is playing a lot of what's happening with his toileting now. But we've made a lot of progress with that. I even have him in extra speech and occupational therapy with West Texas Rehab after school. And I will tell you, just the second appointment that we went to for speech, his speech therapist was like, I can tell like how much he's getting from y'all, because
It makes a
I
difference.
can already hear how many other words he has from the first time I met him.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is like you were saying, the stability, the stable environment, the love, and what you're doing with them helps, because I mean, even the therapist can tell.
Absolutely.
I want to pause for just a second, because you mentioned safety plan. Could you just briefly describe, for those who may not know, what that is?
So a safety plan is basically where CPS removes a child from their home, but you're not actually fostering them. It's just CPS finding a place to put a child so that they're safe at the moment till the parent does what they need to do to get them back into the home.
Correct. They're not fully in foster
care, but CPS still has them under their care. You still make decisions for them, like when they're in school, depending on what time of year you have them. So you still have to go through the background checks, and you still have to make sure your home's safe and things like that. But you don't get any kind of financial help, or you don't get anything like that for having them in your home. You're just making sure that they're safe, period.
And the hope with all of that, I think, and you might be able to speak to this better, just having a little more insight to the legal side of things, but the hope with these safety plans is that really is to lessen the actual official removals and putting kids into foster care. If we can keep them if we can give parents a to-do list of get these things in place and what's necessary, then they can come back home with you, and we're not having to. It's really just hopefully an initiative to keep all the removals down.
Yes,
It's going to be used in cases primarily that there's not abuse
an
or neglect
initial
or
and immediate emergency.
But it's more we see a trajectory that is dangerous. Mm-hmm. And so let's get some coaching in before it gets to this point.
And to really empower families, biological families, to say, hey, you can do this.
Yes.
We can help you. There's support out here.
Alongside you.
Let us come alongside, and let's just kind of help this from becoming part of your story. And so step in family or friends who in that time frame will say, they can stay with me for a time, right? Until XYZ happens and they can go back home, which isn't officially kinship care for foster care, but typically it is family or very close friends that do that as well. So I think it just goes even into saying how much, really just in general, how much family support is so necessary.
Yes.
You're talking about every family just needs friends and other relatives who can say, hey man, we are here for you in the event that something happens, like even to the smallest degree. You have a family emergency and you've got to rush to the hospital. I'll take care of your kids for a little bit. All families need that. And so even especially in these cases, I would say. And then so go ahead and just speak to us now. You had said that you were a part of meetings prior, maybe some conference calls or something about, is this during that safety plan or?
That was during the safety plan.
Okay.
I, for the last 15 years, worked at MHMR. On the IDD side, I was the supervisor over a lot of the programs that they have there.
Wow.
You're well equipped for this.
Yes. And so then I went from there to Shannon. I've been with Shannon for the last 2 years. This family doesn't have a lot of support. I've been the one to just be there and to support them, whether it's been to jump on calls to help mom understand what's happening, because mom does have some learning disabilities that she doesn't quite understand things sometimes. So you kind of have to explain to her.
Listen, you sit in on some of these meetings and you realize I don't even understand what's going on. And so let alone if you had some kind of learning disability or something like that, I can only imagine. So it's helpful to have someone like you who's like, hey, I can kind of navigate through all of this jargon that they're talking about and all the acronyms that might come up with it.
Right. So I've been a big advocate for this family and for the mom.
Good. Yeah.
Basically, even when he hasn't been in care.
And so then you are on this conference call and you say, I'm really feeling like maybe we're the ones that are supposed to be taking care of him, right? Do you call them? Do you say that, or did they reach out to you?
They actually would ask me on the call. So they would be discussing what they would want to do with him. And so they would ask me, because they did ask other relatives. They did ask the other family members. And nobody else was able or willing to take him. At the beginning, at the first of the year, I was going through some medical things. And so I told him at that time, I couldn't take him at that time. So that's when he did go in with maternal grandma. But then after the physical abuse happened and everything, and just listening in, sitting in on the calls and the meetings and hearing that if they couldn't find a family member or somebody to take him in, knowing that he was going to go directly into foster care and knowing that he is nonverbal and couldn't take care of himself or stick up for himself, just really tugged at my heart. And I was like, no matter what I'm going through, I could not let him do that. I would not be able to live with myself.
Wow.
And so, like I was telling y'all, I was praying. I would pray about it, and I would just sit down and talk to my kids about it. And eventually, I told the kids, I was like, I really can't. And my daughter would cry about it. And so she would pray, and I would pray, and finally we had another meeting, and hearing everything that was happening and everything, I just told him, no, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him in. And they were like, okay. And of course they were happy, because I think they knew that this was probably the best place for him.
Well, if you,
because they always come to me. So
sure.
I was like, and as soon as we got him, I mean, he knows when he comes to my house, he goes directly to the room he had the first time and all that. So I moved out of that room because that was actually my bedroom.
Oh.
So I actually moved out of that room into the spare bedroom, and I prepared that room for him and got it ready for him.
So he'd have a place of comfort. And
yes, because that's the room that he stayed in before when we first had him.
wow.
So we wanted him to feel comfortable and safe and know that
Yes.
he was going to be okay.
Yes, and recognizable, like you
Yes.
said, to go right to the place that he knew, this is my safe place.
Right.
And that's awesome for him. That's the beginning of his healing.
Yes.
Right there, just the minute he walks into your house.
You touched on a couple things that might be good for people watching to learn just about the system. That's the way when a child gets pulled, right? That's exactly what the CPS workers do in the state. The
Yes.
judge, they look for any possible kinship placement that's willing to take them.
Yes.
Grandmas, aunts, uncles,
Right.
fictive
Yes.
kin situations.
It truly is their priority to
Statistically,
keep them with
yeah.
people they know and recognize.
Statistically, it is better psychologically for the kids
Yes.
if they stay with family of some sort. But that's not always the case, and that's where my wife and I and the foster community come in to try to be that next stopgap in there. So it's neat that you stepped into that. Now, you also mentioned a few things in there about praying with your kiddos, talking through, having all these discussions. So what role did your faith play in some of this, or how much do you think that played into it?
I feel like it played a lot. God has a plan for you, no matter what it is. And I feel like God kept telling me that I needed to take him. And I feel like that's why they kept coming towards me and asking me, and I felt like this was God's way of saying, hey, I want you to take him, and like I said, praying about it, and I would feel him telling me, like, everything's going to be okay. And once we took him in, because it's just me, I'm a single mom, and things are hard. It's, I mean, everything's expensive, it's not easy being a single parent. But I will tell you, I've had the greatest support, not just family-wise, but community-wise.
Okay.
Anything that I've needed for this child, I mean, through CPS or through community organizations that we've needed, they have come and been so, like, whatever we can do, we'll help you.
Okay.
I needed some things for my house, like, fixed because to meet requirements for CPS and for I have to go through another home study here for adoption, adoption process. So I have a gentleman at my house this morning. He's actually fixing some things at my house. So hopefully I can meet and pass that inspection.
Yes.
And talking to this man, because he's been there before fixing some things, I was there talking to him and asking him, and thanking him for being there. And I was like, so, what do they pay you to come? And, I was just holding conversation. And he was like, I don't get paid for this.
Oh, wow.
I volunteer to do this.
Oh,
wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, God bless you, like, I'm so thankful that you do this. And he said, through the organization, he reaches out to whatever's needed, and then if I can fit it in, then I'll come out and do it.
What organization is this?
Is that the San Angelo Family Network?
It's the San Angelo Family Network with Patrick.
Yes.
Shout out to Patrick.
So,
Shout out. That's what I was going to say. Let's give Patrick a
has
shout.
been wonderful. He's helped me get my home exterminated because we had some issues with
He has such a heart just to help kinship families.
He
because there is a lot less support out there, especially from the state, for kinship families. And so he's a great
been
resource.
Wonderful. And we've had this, gosh, I'm so bad at names, but this lady, she's a teacher at Grape Creek, and she's brought us meals a couple of months. So she'll call and be like, can I bring you a meal this month,
wonderful.
this night? And I'm like, yes, that'll be fine.
Oh my gosh.
And that one meal just helps because, like I said, we're busy taking him to appointments. And
I was telling a story last week of that we've got a church that partners with Open Homes that this last Tuesday, Chelsea was taking our bio kids to track practice or some other something, and she was out of the house. And anytime that happens, like, okay, what am I going to do to feed? I've got the 2 fosters. I've got to keep them alive for 3 hours. Can I do this? And a lady from First Methodist had dropped us off a meal, and it was like, this is so nice. They don't have to eat macaroni and cheese. That's the one thing I can cook.
Always comes at the right time.
Yes.
You're just like, oh, thank goodness, because I didn't have anything planned, and it is. It's a huge help. People don't understand how much something simple like that goes a long way.
Not everybody's going to take a kid into their home, but there are some men that could come and fix things in a house. There are some ladies that could cook and deliver a meal once a month. There's just a number of different ways that people can get involved.
So that people can just continue opening their home like that. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't have that support, I imagine that it would have been a lot harder for you to just say yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's awesome.
It would have. I still would have, but it would be a struggle.
It would be a struggle.
Even more
for
of a
sure.
I mean, it's hard enough as is.
But you just even talked about a little bit about how the Lord just continued to talk to you through this. But even looking back at your background, you mentioned having worked how many years at MHMR?
15 here.
15 in an IDD program. I mean, He was already equipping you long before last year, long before you even 4 years ago, or how long ago was it when you had him the very first time?
About 5 years ago.
So even long before that, he was already preparing you to say, I'm gonna plant this in your life so that you will have all that you need, all the equipping that you need, so that you are better equipped to take him, because you're going to have this little boy in your life. I'm going to ask you to step into this, and so you'll feel at least a little more equipped to do so. I know it's not always the case. There's many days where we go, dude, this isn't me. I don't want to do this. I don't think I have what it takes, right? And that's exactly where the Lord wants you to go. Exactly. I'm not asking you to have what it takes. I'm asking you to give me whatever you do have, and I'll make the most of that, And so that's just amazing to hear that part of your story of like, wow, the Lord was working long before this little boy was ever in your life.
So if you were thinking just over this, what's one of the most difficult things that y'all walked through over the last 6 months or so? I guess it's almost 8 months now. And then what's like the biggest joy that you've seen come out of it?
So I would say one of the biggest Struggles that we've had is all the behaviors. Because at home, it's almost like he's two different children. Because at home, those behaviors have gotten so much better to where, like, he almost has none at all at home. But at school, it's like they've gotten worse.
Oh, okay.
To where we communicate through a folder. And one day, his folder came home, and I was reading it, and it said he had cussed through shoes, through furniture, and I was shocked because, first of all, I didn't know he could cuss.
Right.
I was like, what?
Add that to the list of words,
I was like,
we added a word.
Shocked.
Yeah.
And then just throwing furniture and shoes, like,
uncharacteristic for him.
Yeah. I've never seen him do that, not at home or anywhere. And so it's just like, where is all this coming from?
Yeah.
So, of course, those have been some big struggles that we've all come together and tried to, we called an art, and we're, tried to figure things out for him and to try to help him get more support at school. So those are things that we're working on. But just to see how more comfortable and loving that he's become since he's been in a stable environment, and how used to it be kind of like a struggle of getting him to go to the bathroom, or like I would tell him, hey, go to the bathroom, and he sometimes would be like, no, or he would just stay doing whatever. And now it's like, hey, go to the restroom, because you have to tell him, because he can't tell me when he needs to go or if he's already gone or anything like that. Okay. And he'll be like, okay, and he'll go. And then, or I'll be like, hey, come and take your medicine. It's time. Yeah. Okay. So he'll come and he'll take his medicine. I'll be like, can you bring me your basket of clothes from your room? Bring them over here to the washer. And he's struggling with his big old basket of clothes, but he's bringing them.
Yes.
And he's setting them by the washer for me, and I'll thank him. Thank you for doing that. And so I'll wash his clothes,
Right.
Or helping him help feed. Kimberly's the one he'll help feed, but and it's so cute to watch him because he'll take her bowl over into the living room. And he'll actually make her do paw before he feeds her because he's seen us do that. And he's real, very quiet when he talks, but you can hear him telling her paw.
That's so sweet.
So just those little things, seeing him, it makes my heart happy.
That's
Yes.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I was curious, what does it look like for you being an actual relative and having a relationship with the bio family, whether it be it mom or anything like that? What are the dynamics that come with that?
So it's kind of weird because this side of the family, my husband's side of the family, it's different from my family because we're very close, loving, talking, get together, celebrate holidays, things like that. With his side of the family, they love each other, but it's not like they kind of hang out all the time with each other or anything like that. So I didn't really know them that well.
Okay.
And so they might have come to my house maybe one time the whole time I was with my husband.
Oh, okay.
And so those dynamics are just kind of strange. But we would see each other on Facebook, kind of keep up with each other like that. His mom, when this happened the first time, and even this time, for whatever reason, she felt like I was the only one that she could count on or trust and reach out to.
Okay.
This past year, she had a rough time. She was in and out of some places, and so when she was in those places, she did write us and she did call us when she could. I would write her back and keep in touch with her and let her know that, her son was okay. And since she's been out and back home, she has called a couple of times. It doesn't seem like she's stayed in contact as much as she did when she was away. But I did talk to her yesterday. I called her and was able to get a hold of her, and we talked for 30 minutes. And she's always very thankful. I know that she loves her son. I do know she loves her son. But I do know that she struggles to do what she needs to do for her son.
Yeah.
It's a hard dynamic
So it is
for a lot of
hard.
people to understand. Even how can it's one of the big questions? How can a mom allow this? Why? And it's something that the son will have to navigate as he grows up. Why was I not enough for mom?
Yeah.
Right. To keep her away from the substances or to keep her away from these life choices. And those are tough questions to answer that those of us that haven't had those struggles can't really grasp.
Right.
in many ways.
Until you're in that situation or in a situation with someone, you never will understand what that person is going through.
Yeah.
So you can't judge a person or their situation because you never know what that person's going through. It's like when my kids were growing up, I always told them, always say hi to other kids. Hi, hello, be nice to them. I was like, because you never know what that child's going through at home. You never know if they've eaten. You never know if they're being abused. You never know what's happening in that child's life. So always just be nice.
Well, and that's one of the things that getting into this arena opens their eyes to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When they've got names and faces, right, to these just numbers and statistics, like we say. When our kids, they can go, oh, that child that I shared a bedroom with came out of living in a shed in somebody's backyard.
Right.
Right? And nobody knew that for however long. Right? And so every person that you come in contact with, we don't know their backstory, but their story matters.
Right.
So we've heard a lot of where we've been. We've heard a lot of where we are. So where is your story headed next?
Hopefully, God willing, it will end with adoption of this child. So that is the plan with CPS, and I know that's what the child's lawyer is wanting, but it's just it's going to be in the hands of the judge and the final decision when we have our last court date. So
Okay. And that's
it's
coming up
also,
in the summer?
That's going to be in the summer, and it's also going to depend on what all mom's been able to do in this time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So for the summer, for the people listening to this, they can be praying over Shannon, her family, and the situation. So as we kind of some closing thoughts, some maybe wrap up, what would you tell just the general public about maybe kinship care or that arena in general, something that people may not realize that you go through? Like we said, your story matters. If somebody's meeting you, what is it that they don't know about your story in the midst of the grocery store, in the midst of work situation, or in the midst of going to church even, where we may not know people's stories?
It's a hard question. I would say just be there to listen. I mean, because people always need to talk. And sometimes people can't always talk about what's happening, but just listening to somebody, maybe helping out if you can. Like if, you know, sometimes people will talk and something comes out that maybe they're needing something, but they're not trying to tell that person that's, to help me or whatever. But you never know. Something may come out that if you can help them.
Yeah, take the initiative.
Yeah, take initiative.
Yeah.
And then if this is something that maybe you've been thinking about doing, ask more questions about it. It's not a bad thing to do. There's so much help out there, and these kids deserve a good place, a good home, loving arms around them.
Absolutely.
Because even though that their families or their parents are trying the best that they can, and in the end they do love their children, just for whatever reason they're having a hard time doing what they need to do for their child or their children.
Yeah, and I think Jason Johnson mentions often in his podcasts and stuff about proximity. Like, if you're thinking about foster care and what that might look like and how do I get involved, proximity matters. And so get close. Find people like Shannon or others who, I know your story, I know you're doing kinship care, I know you're doing foster care, and I need to be close to those people. If I enter into your story, right. Then it makes an effect. Right, it has an infectious kind of thing, and I'm then compelled to do something, right? And so I want to help Shannon out. I want to take her a meal. I want to, whatever that may be. And so it's even if you're having those inklings, I think, or those thoughts about getting into foster care and what that might look like, I think it's like you said, being educated and then getting in touch with what that looks like, and that's possibly getting in touch with Open Homes Initiative or something where we can connect you with families like Shannon and others to say, like, hey, we know some needs here. We'd love to see you meet those needs. That's a huge start to all of that, I think.
One other question that did come to mind, what would be something you wish people would know about kids with autism? Because that is something very unique to your story.
So
with that,
kids with autism are very intelligent. They're very smart, and they're all different. They're all unique individuals, and you just have to learn with them because they're people, and they deserve to be treated like a person and with respect and with dignity. I feel like anybody with special needs tends to get mistreated, and they're not treated like a person. If you treat them just like a person and you talk to them like a person, just like you and I, they're going to feel that respect.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel just more like a human.
And to have somewhat degree of patience and an understanding and an awareness of their situation, because you're not just having a child with autism. You're having a child with autism and trauma on top of that.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about that in foster care, right? Trauma and what that literally does to the brain and how it literally rewires things or keeps connections and wires from happening, to be less medical term. And trauma does those already.
Right.
And then to couple that with autism on top of that, right? It's having an awareness of that, that we do have children in our home, our biological children.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we treat them any different or special or better than. It's just a matter of going, hey, parenting in general, right, is we parent each child as their needs are, come up. We parent them different. Not any better or worse, but we parent them different because they are different.
Right.
And so there is some maybe accommodations and things that you make for him that you probably wouldn't have made for your 21-year-old, that they're probably going, Mom, this is not who you were. This is not how you parented me. Well, no, because you didn't have the same needs, right? And thank God you didn't have the trauma. You didn't have the things that he did, right? So, yeah, it's going to look different for each child. But I think that's something, too, like even with us in foster care, we don't have an autistic child in our home, but we do have children with trauma.
Right.
And all of those things and all of these behaviors you're talking about mimic a lot of these kinds of things, even to the degree that I've had to kind of go and get assessments and things done for our little one, all to come back and say, no, he has no indicators of autism. However, some might see it as that, right? Because trauma plays itself out in a whole lot of different ways. And so I think it's a lot of just having patience and understanding and awareness, and also reminding yourself that, right? Like, oh, I need to remember this kid is 10 years old. He's only 10. He's literally been alive 10 years on this planet. He's been through a lot.
A lot.
Yes, and he's been through a lot in a short amount of time. And so it's a reminder to us, right, on those hard days of going, okay, no, right? I'm here to help him, and I need to have patience and awareness and help others see that in his, right? That's part of your job, is to be his advocate right now.
Exactly.
At the school and wherever, and go, look, he may not have these issues at home. I realize he's having these issues at school or other places, and there's a reason for that. And we're going to get to the heart of it, right? And to help other people to see that from that perspective.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought up the patience, because with him, there's a lot of things that I have to repeat when I'm doing things with him. He's come a long way with showering. So he doesn't know, like, front to back. So, like, when he's washing his leg, I have to remind him, back of your leg and to the front of your leg, or things like that. So there is a lot of repeating with him. And then the patience. And there is days that, like you said, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pull out my hair. And, there's been days where I'm like, okay, I've got to step away. And I'll tell my daughter, okay, can you come and do whatever I'm doing with him? I was like, just need like 10 minutes to go and breathe and just kind of pray and be like, God, you've got to help me, because there are days that it gets overwhelming. And this child I have him set on a good night schedule, but he comes up with the chickens every day. Like, it doesn't matter.
I just want to sleep in.
Like, he is a very morning person.
I feel that really deep right now with the two that we have being so little. I'm like, why can't you just sleep in today? It's Saturday.
And he does like to take a nap still, so that's one good thing. I'm like, okay,
that helps.
I'm gonna go take a nap now that he's taking a nap.
I hear that. Well, I just want to encourage you and tell you this. This story has inspired me. It's incredible. All that you went through last summer to be where you are right now, even going, we love this kid to the point of even looking forward to adoption someday, to make him part of our forever family. Yes, he's kinship. Yes, he's relative, but not just going to be nephew. He's going to be son.
Right.
And that's the transition from losing a husband to taking on a kid to your daughters taking on so much of these roles as well, and just everything about it is. So that'll wrap up another episode of the Open Homes Initiative podcast. I do want to again shout out Patrick Diersky and what he's doing with San Angelo Family Network. So if you are a kinship family that happens to be watching this, reach out to him. He has a massive heart for kinship. He's doing some incredible things here around San Angelo. And if you're interested in foster adoption, and we can help on the kinship front too, look, do the clicks, the subscribes, all those good things to the Open Homes Initiative podcast website and the like. So thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.